Hi loves, welcome back to the channel Style by C. Today's tutorial will be on how to recreate this beautiful piece. On this side we have our style inspiration, and this is what our recreation is. To subscribe to the channel, share to friends, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Thank you.
So guys, the first thing to do is to fold your fabric in a flare form, and this is what I have. So this is going to be my centerpiece and this is going to be my side piece. All right, so now the next step is divide your bust measurement by 4. Whatever you have, you add 1.5 inches or 2 inches or 1 inch for seam allowance. So for this tutorial, I'm adding 1.5 inches. So my bust is 34. When I divide it by 4, I have 8.5 plus 1.5 inches is 10 inches. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look for 10 inches on this folded part, this triangle area now, and this is where it falls. This is where my 10 inches falls. Go ahead and make a rule this way. Okay, so having done this now, the next thing to do now is you're going to go up from this point now by 4 inches, 3 to 4 inches. All right, let me use 3.5 inches. I don't want my bust to be showing, so that's I wanted to use 4 inches, but I'm working with 3.5 inches now. Right, so having done this now, on this new line, new chest line, this one is our bust line, these are new start points. I'm going to come in by 3.5 inches to 4 inches. I'm going to be coming in by 4 inches, which I have here. I'm trying to create my neck area. So having done this now, this is my bust measurement. I'm going to be connecting this and this with a slight curve. This is going to be serving as your armhole area. Now we're going to be having a neck, a false neck on this piece. So what you have to do is work with 1.5 inches, which is this. Then you connect it to this point here, and this is what we have. All right, now the next thing to mark now is the full length of this gown. So the full length I'm working with is 38 inches. I'm going to be adding 2 inches seam allowance to it. So I'm going to be offing 5 inches because it's an off-shoulder gown, though we have straps. So I'm minusing 5 inches. From this 5 inches now, I'm going to find the full length of my gown. So we're working with 40 inches, right? Yeah. So this way are 40 lies. I'm adding 1 inch to it. I don't want it to be too short. Or if I go ahead and do it. So this is where my 41 inches lies. Added extra 1 inch to it. So 5. So yeah, having done this now, the next thing to do now is to give your side seam a curve, like a slant shape. If you want it to be this bold, fine, you can go ahead and cut it out this way. But if you want it to be moderate, what you have to do is you reduce it from this point. This is your 10 inches. Go ahead and reduce it here, just like I did here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out this piece. then cut out this part here. So this is what we have. We are going to use this to cut out our back piece. This is for my back piece. I also went ahead and folded it in a triangle form, giving me this. So the next thing I'm going to do now is, this is where our armhole lies, right? Okay, so now you can decide to deepen your own. You can decide to make your own to come down more. Okay, maybe you want it to reach your waistline, which is totally fine. So what you have to do is, if you want yours to be on your waistline, remember we used -5 inches, which is here. So you determine where your waist falls, where your half length falls. All right, so if your half length is 16 inches, please use 15. Just reduce it by 1. So for example, now my half length is 16, so I'm going to be working with 15 inches, and this is where it is. This is where the 15 inches is. So what you have to do is just go ahead and cut out this piece. Now if you watch closely, I have some extra inches here because we're going to be gathering this piece. Like the back piece is going to be gathered in a small pleats, okay, because it's going to have a band and some little gather. So that's why I have this extra at this area. So but if you don't want your own to be too wide, like you don't want it to be too bold, like get to this 16 inches or to your half length, what you have to do is place your distance back from your -5 inches. You can come up to maybe, let's say, 12 inches because you don't want it to be too deep. So for this tutorial, I'm going to be working with 12 inches. And this is where my 12 inches is. So what I have to do is, and this is where my armhole, original armhole for the front piece is. So I'm going to connect it this way. Or if you want to work with this half length, go ahead and connect it this way in a curved part, this way. All right, so you either work with this or you work with this, whichever one of them is totally fine. All right, so now the next thing to do is to cut this piece out. Then for the down part of it, it's just the same with your front. That's the same thing you are cutting, nothing much there. So this is what you have. So this is for my front piece. What I went ahead to do was to pipe this neck piece, this neck area. I went ahead and piped it. Then for the bottom part of it, I hemmed or folded it in. All right, so now we're going to work on the back piece. So guys, this is for our back piece. All right, so for the bottom part of it, the same thing we did to the front piece, that's what we did here. We've gone ahead to hem the bottom part of it. Now this is the main work here, which is the waist area. All right, so first thing first to do is go ahead and run a stitch on yours, just like how I did. This is a loose stitch, or you can decide to use your needle and thread to form your gathers, which is totally fine. So I'm going to go ahead now and drag these stitches I've made on this waistline. Please do this gently. All right, So this is what I have. After doing this now, the next thing to do is you have to measure what you have round here. Okay, so I'm going to measure what I have round here. I have 15 inches. All right, so now we're going to be working with our waist measurement, the round waist measurement. So the waist measurement I'm working with for this tutorial is 30 inches. Okay, 29 to 30 inches. So I'm going to divide it into 2 because this is our back piece. So when I divide it into 2, I have 15 inches, and what we have here is exactly 15 inches. Now you go ahead and cut out a band for this area. Okay, so I'm going to be working with this for my band at this waist area. Note, you can decide to cut it in a cone shape, just like you have a curved shape at this point. You can decide to go ahead and do that, but for this tutorial, because of insufficient material, I'm just going to be working on a straight form. Okay, so my band is 4 inches wide, but I'm trimming out some parts because of some damages. So let's measure what we have. So we have 3 inches wide. Okay, so that is what I have here. Then on a fold, I'm going to be having 1.5 inches. Please note, you can decide to make it to be more bolder. The choice is totally yours. So there are 2 ways to this now. You either join it this way and go ahead and weave it, or you run a stitch on it first, then go ahead and top stitch on it. All right, so whichever one you want to do is totally fine. So guys, at this point now we are done with our band. That is for our back piece, and this is what it looks like. This is what we have. All right, so now the next thing we're going to be working on is the strap that is going to be joining from the front to the back piece. That's from the armhole area from back. So now we're going to go ahead and cut out our strap. So to know how long this strap is going to be, what you're going to do is you bring your front piece first. So this is our front piece. We're going to measure our armhole. So from here now, we have 6 inches on the armhole area. All right, then remember we removed 5 inches for offing our off shoulder, making it 11 inches. So our armhole and the strap that is going to be in the front is going to be 11 inches. Then for our back, you're going to calculate how deep did you have to remember how deep you used for your back depth. Remember we worked with 12 inches then. Okay, that is how deep our own is. So 11 plus 12, that should be giving us 23 inches. So we're going to be adding maybe extra 1 to it, making it 24 inches. So that's how long your strap is going to be. So remember, the strap differs. If your own is deeper, if your back piece is more deeper, that means your strap is going to be more longer. All right, so we're going ahead to cut out our band or our strap now. So we have 24 inches long, which is here. Then the width of the strap is going to be, you can decide to work with 3 inches depending on how good you want yours to be. Okay, you can decide to work with 4, you can decide to work with 2, 2.5. So for this tutorial, we're going to be working with 3 inches width. Remember, we're still going to fold it in. Remember, it's going to be on a fold. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. So this is what we have now. We're going to be attaching it to our dress proper. So the first thing to do now is to attach this piece to the armhole area. Like this, you're going to attach it to the armhole area. The same thing for this other side. I'm also going to go ahead and run a stitch on it at the armhole area. So guys, for this part now, I'm gonna head to attach it to my armhole area. This is what we have. Okay, so fold it in this way. Then this way, you fold the two ends together inwards like this. Then you hold the two together. Then you go ahead and top stitch on it until you get to this armhole area. So that's what you're going to go ahead to do. Alright guys, so at this point now we are done attaching our band to the armhole area and folding it in. This is what we have. Now we're going to be introducing our back piece to this dress. Alright, so this is my back piece. So the first thing first is to join them together. So I'm going to be starting from this point, this armhole area here now, this point. So I'm going to go ahead and run a stitch on it and join the two flares together down to the bottom part. I also do this to this other side. So if you notice at this point now, the front piece is more bigger than the back piece. Yes, reason is because you gathered the back piece to your actual waist measurement. All right, so now ignore that and run a stitch on your dress. So at this point now we are done joining our pieces together. This is what we have. This is what it is looking like. This is the back piece, this is our front. Okay, so now the next thing to do is to join this strap to this piece. So at this point I think you can also decide not to join the strap. Like you can decide to maybe tie the strap behind your shoulders. It's still fine, it's still good. All right, so the next thing to do is just go ahead and attach it to your back piece. Okay, so first of all, measure what you have your round back to get the midpoint. So I have 15 inches here, and where the middle point falls is here. All right, so I'm going to mark 4 inches away or 3.5 inches away from the midpoint. At this point now, this is where I'm going to fix this band of mine. So I'm going to go ahead and chop it. The same thing to this other side. Just use 4 inches, it's fine. So that's where I'm going to go ahead and place my strap. Okay, so just top stitch on it, top stitch on it. So that's what I'm going to go ahead to do now.